I
right,
had a,
I'm recording. Keep talking because everybody needs to hear what you're saying. Sorry, guys. I'll introduce her to you later. Go ahead.
you are so cute. I had a client last week that she's from where I'm from, but she lives here in Arizona. And she just found me and we were just talking and we were talking about loving ourselves. And she just stopped and she said, I didn't even know if it was okay to love yourself. I didn't know it was okay to love yourself. She's like my age. And I'm like, you know what? I give you permission. Like, it's
Mhm.
almost like you need permission to be able to love myself. Like, I mean, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Like, how does it make sense that we're able to love other people and do all these things for other people, but cannot even imagine doing any of it for us, for ourselves? And I still do it after being coached and having gone through certification. There's still areas where I'm like, I can't do that. I
Mhm.
can't do that.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you completely because I had to work through that for myself because sometimes you're used to putting yourself last. And I had to work through that. And a lot of my audience have to as well. But it's impossible to have a healthy, wealthy life in a way that's breathable, in a way that's healthy, in a way that's sustainable, in a way that's not suffocating, that's not selfish if you don't love yourself. That's
No,
my principle. If you
one.
don't agree, then you can turn this off. No, I'm just joking. Don't turn it off.
I wouldn't even if you asked.
Okay. All right. So I don't know at what point if I'm going to crop that out or
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
Dr. Latifat. This is Indu. She is fabulous.
thank
And normally I start my stuff by introducing the people that I'm bringing on, but we were just having such great conversations and she was just dropping so many like beautiful points in a way that is just, I could listen to all day. So I'm like, all right, Indu, I'm going to just press record. So if you're watching this, I want to say welcome. This is the official start of the show.
you.
So if you're listening to this is Indu. I will tell you how we met because I think it's interesting and it points to this whole idea that she and I share this philosophy that everything happens for a reason. I'm a certified life coach. I'm a money coach. I'm a physician, and I am certified through the Life Coach School with Brooke Castillo, which is a fabulous school that I highly recommend if anyone is looking. Um, After we certified, we have a group or a cohort of peers where you continue together to help support each other, grow together. And Indu happens to be in my group. So I have probably been to like 25% of the group after, but I've just, there's something that just draws you in about her.
Mhm.
And then I recently saw her on Facebook and I sent her a message just to say hi, and we got talking. And I mean, number one is our encounter, our conversation continued to demonstrate the fact that she's just an amazing human. But I also got to learn some other things that I believe is going to be important and very, very helpful for my audience. So, first of all, welcome.
Thank you, Latifa. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so delighted to be here. Honestly, it's a joy and it's a privilege. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
So, Indu is a certified life coach. She works with women in general. You could be a physician or not. She's a mom as well. And I found out, was married to a physician, an interventional cardiologist who unfortunately we lost due to some unfortunate health issues that were very sudden. And the reason why Indu and I thought it would be great to have her come talk here was because before her husband passed, she was a stay-home mom. And if you spend any time on my platform at all, I love stay-home moms. They are part of the key element in our foundation. Stay-home moms, single moms, I have a special place in my heart for them. And part of it is because we're all important. We're all important parts of the important pieces of the puzzle. But I know that some of my audience, some of them are stay-home parents, even if they're physicians, and some are not physicians or may have stay-home spouses. And we started talking about this whole idea of like our finances and the impact that you being a stay-home mom and you not being involved in the finances early on had to play in sort of how things played out afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand the mic to you because
Oh,
you did great
wow.
things with it.
Okay. So that's, you know what? I have so many things that I could say about that, but I think I want to start with saying that for the longest time, being a stay-at-home mom felt like a victim role to me,
Hmm.
and it was very much self-imposed. And I know that now, but I didn't at that time. Definitely didn't know that at that time. So the thing is, I actually went to law school, like the top law school in India before I moved here, and never practiced. I came here, my husband was doing his fellowship, and I just like, I got pregnant really quickly, and I was like, you know what, I'll stay home. And then slowly it became, oh, I am not working, all my friends are working, they're making so much money, I had to leave all my family and my friends and everything I knew and move here, and now I'm staying home taking care of the kids. So this drama that was in my head was so compelling that I projected that onto my husband
Hmm.
and made him the perpetrator, when the truth is, he had told me before we got married, he's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because a doctor's life is not easy. And he like loved me. And I'm like, I was all of 21. I'm like, yeah, I know. I totally can do it. No, did not know any of it. Right. But like, we don't ever know what the future looks like.
Of course.
So it was tough, that like the first couple of years when I had three kids and I was trying to manage the home, which I had no experience doing, being a parent or any of it. And I think I definitely took it out on my husband, and I made him, so he did what he knew, right? Like he'd be like, okay, let's figure out a budget and I'll give you this much money and then you can spend this money during the month. And I'm like, why does he get to tell me like how much money that
Hmm.
I should spend, Like, why should he be giving me money? And then there's the other side of me that's like, that's not my money. I didn't make it.
Hmm.
So do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's like this entitlement, because I just feel like, okay, I'm his wife. He shouldn't ask me like how much I'm spending. And then the other side is the like, I didn't make that money. How can I take that? It's not my money,
That's interesting. That's
right?
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that was something I struggled with for a long time. And I want to say our biggest arguments were about money,
I see. I see.
because he definitely came from a place of scarcity where it was like, I have to work so hard to make sure I can provide for all of you guys, and I want to save it. I want to make sure that we only spend as much as necessary. And I came, even though
Hmm.
my parents, like, I came from a very middle class background, my money mindset was just abundant. I don't know why. I
You're
don't
like,
know.
there's enough. There's enough for you. There's enough for me.
Money comes, money goes. It's totally fine. But it didn't work. Like, he was coming from scarcity, I was coming from abundance. And I'm like, we have so much money. Like, you're a doctor. What's the problem? He's like, I never heard him say that we have money. It was always, oh, how are we going to do this in retirement? How are we going to do this? The funny thing is, he didn't even live to retirement, right? And so it's just, but the beautiful thing is, over the years, I think he discovered himself. And about a year before he passed, we were on a walk. And for the first time in 20 years, I heard him say, Indu, you know what? I'm perfectly content where I am. I
Wow.
don't think I need to make any more money. I
Hmm.
want to go mountain biking. I want to do all, like, I want to travel with the kids. I want to do fun things. So we finally started doing all that.
Wow.
Can you imagine, like,
Wow.
20
Year
years
before.
later? That was life changing for me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, I love that you shared that. And I mean, there's so many points. And the problem with so many points is we would literally talk for 2 hours. So I'm going to pick specific things in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love I mean, when I talk to my audience, and when it comes to money, there's all those different movements. There's a fast fire, like financial independent, retire early, like hurry up now, don't eat anything but ramen, like suffer it all so you
Yeah.
can have all this money and then you'll be done with it, right? And I have a more healthy, a balanced approach. And
Yeah.
that sounds like where the point where you guys came to about a year before you passed. And I'm so glad that you got to enjoy that time together, because ultimately, life is a gift, as we know. No one knows when things are going to happen. I've had things happen in my family and in close friends in the last 4 weeks that's given me even a more deeper appreciation of the fact that nothing is to be taken for granted. And there can be that extreme where you're like, YOLO, I'm not going to save
Yeah.
anything. And then there's this other extreme of, well, I want to not spend anything. And there's a middle ground that is healthy where you can still save money, you can still spend money, you can still enjoy money. And that is what I preach in this platform. So, I mean, what you said right now, spot on, spot on. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And I am not by any means someone that just goes out and spends a ton of money. Like I don't buy.
Hey, if that's what you want, I'm
Right.
not
If
saying,
that's what I want, that's
right.
totally fine. But I'm just saying, like, but I don't want to be attached to it in a way that, like, it makes me feel nervous and fear and anxiety about. I don't want that. So that's what I want to like convey to you, that that's where my husband was. And then
Mhm.
he changed to where he was, and he enjoyed his life so much more, so
That's,
much more.
that's great. So when he passed, and at the time of his passing, he was the one that was doing most of the financial stuff,
All of it.
right? All of it.
I just signed papers.
Okay. That has, and I'm sure had implications.
For sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because part of it is it's important for us to be empowered, right? And in a lot of relationships, there's that almost like dichotomy in roles.
Yeah.
And especially if you are the person that's not necessarily loving the money conversation. So I want to hear what impact did that have on things for you?
So what you said, like about you being the person not wanting to have that money conversation, that was me. Because and he would ask me all the time. In fact, like I want to say, even though he was Indian, he didn't have that patriarchal kind of, like a role designation. Like I do this, you do this. He was very complete. I mean, he would have been fine with me doing all of those things, but I didn't want to be involved. That wasn't something that I think money scared me in that sense because I didn't understand it very well. So I was like, I felt stupid when I would like try to understand it. So I just was like, no, I don't want to deal with this. You deal with it. So it tried to include me several times and I didn't. But I always like, I signed the papers and I knew he was really smart about money. So I wasn't ever worried about it. But then what happened is, like when he passed, I didn't have passwords to any of our accounts. I didn't even know how much life insurance that we had, like if we even had anything.
Mm.
I didn't know what were the different accounts that we had. It was all like from zero. So I have to tell you that the greatest blessing at that time was that my dad and my brothers were here and they went this room, they went through every paper
Mm.
that was in this room and gave like organized the whole thing
Mm.
and told me like I first of all I did not panic because I was like, okay, if I can handle my husband dying
Mm.
and still be standing, the rest of it totally can handle it. So number one, I didn't panic. Number two, I sat down and I called every single number there was
Mm.
available and had within the first 2 weeks I'm talking about. And I think it kind of gave me a purpose because I was like, I was determined. I was like, this is not so when I didn't know anything, it felt like bliss at that time, but I didn't want to be in the same position again. So
Mm.
I was like, people were like, I'll help you, we'll help you do this. And I really appreciated it. But I was like, no, I need to know what's going on from now on. I may not know things in detail. And that was the thing. Like I would contact each of these people and I'd say, okay, pretend that I am 5 years old or 10 years old. Explain to me what this means. So no ego. Suddenly I have no ego. Like, I'm like, pretend I don't know anything about this, but I do want to know everything about it. I may ask you very stupid questions, but humor me and answer me. And I think that that was so empowering to me because I learned so much so fast.
You
And
know why?
why?
You tell me.
Because
Why?
I didn't let fear get in the way.
Exactly. Your why, your need to have that information, you made it stronger than your fear or the shame you have. And that is because that fear, that shame, that we thinking I'm stupid or making it mean that we're stupid. And that's why we don't know this because no one has taught us.
No,
Yet we think the fact that I don't know it means that I'm stupid. Like, how does that even make sense? But
it did.
yet that's what we tell ourselves, right?
It did at that time. I mean, for the longest time, it made sense to me, right? But then when I didn't give myself an out, I didn't give myself an out, right? Like, I'm like, no, even if I don't know the length and breadth of it, I will know enough to be able to make decisions. And it's my decision, right? And that was, and I'm dealing again, like, it's like, we're talking in big numbers. So I could really be scared. Like, I could be terrified. But even at that point, I'm like, I could lose all of this and I know I could build it back up. So what's the worst that can happen? I lose it all because I make some stupid decisions or some decisions that don't work out. So what? And I hadn't even gone through life coaching at that time. It was just like, because of what had happened, it just came to me. And definitely I prayed a lot. Like, and I feel like just that strength just came to me. And I don't know from where. It just like, and within a year, we had everything sorted out. And the like my advisors would tell me, the lawyers have told me, like they were like, we don't have to rush through this. But you know what? I was like, no, we're getting on it. We're gonna do it and we're gonna finish it. And we were done. And I'm really proud of myself for that.
As you should be, right? As you should be proud of yourself because to and again, like you said, you're intelligent, right? So and that was not why you were not learning it to begin with. And that's part of the challenge that people in my audience face because a lot of the people in my audience are all of them, I can say, are intelligent humans.
Yeah.
Many of them are physicians, and what happens is when it comes to financial education, we have all this information out there, right? But those things that where our mind, right? The fear, the
Yeah.
limiting thoughts we have, the what we've been told should be our rules, what we've been told we can or cannot do, what we're what we've seen in our past. Like I was bad with money, so that means I'm never going to be good with money. All
Exactly.
that stuff and the shame of I'm a doctor, I should know how to do this. Those are the real reasons why we are not financially independent. So, what I try to do is help people do those things you just talked about, get us to not wait until a catastrophe happens, right? But where we can get over the fear, the shame, the guilt, the overwhelm, and optimize it so we can actually enjoy the gift of life that we all have. So, I mean, thanks for bringing that up.
No, 100%. And I think if you can give that to people, like you said before, like something forces you to have to do that, it is so powerful. Like it just changes the way you think about even other things that you thought you couldn't do, right? Like, I mean, it's not just finance. Like when you tackle one area in your life that you thought was like beyond your reach, and suddenly you're like, wait, if I can do this, maybe I can do this, and so that's awesome. That is, people need that so much. So you're doing a great service.
No, thank you, thank you, thank you. The other thing that I try to remind people is you don't have to be excellent at it. You just
Mhm.
have to be, it just has to be good enough, right? And we have a lot of fear, even about things like life insurance, getting life insurance. How do we get life insurance? Should we get life insurance? Sharing passwords. What I'm going to do for those that are listening to this on audio or video, I'm going to be attaching some information about some suggestions or some programs that you can look into as ways of consolidating information so that, again, I don't hope and I don't pray that anything happens to any one of us at a young age. However, if something was to happen, your spouse can have access to the passwords, to the information. What do we have? Because it's hard enough to lose someone, right? And to have to figure out all that other stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad and grateful that you have people that you trusted yourself to help you go through that. And not being able to have that, or just being so overwhelmed and not being in a place where you can go, I want to do this no matter what. Because that is like an emotional level that I don't know that I would be able to be in a couple of weeks. I'll be like a lump of clay on the ground.
No, you would think that. You would
I
think
know.
that, but you don't know, because I didn't think that. I mean, I thought I would be literally on the floor, like crying. But when you, and that's another thing, so all my life I grew up thinking that I was, and I was told that I was stressed and things stressed me out, and I just never knew how to handle the stress, so it just was very frustrating to me.
Mm.
And I was always dreading something more than like, actually, like when it actually happened, I was like, oh, I can deal with this. But the dread was so much worse than, like, I mean, of course, I like the grief of not having my husband is immense, and I deal with it like every day. But it's also shown me a side to myself that I never knew I had. It's like, who are you?
Who are you, Ingrid? Tell me.
I'm like, I thank him every day, and I'm like, and it's so beautiful because like 2 weeks before he passed away, we went out on our like a Valentine's Day dinner, and he wrote me this letter and gave it to me that basically like gave me his take on everything that had happened in our marriage. And
Wow.
he apologized to like to me for not kind of taking me for granted, and during the time he was building his business and all that stuff. And at the end he said, you are going to soar to new heights. And I didn't know what that meant at that time,
Wow.
right? Like I just didn't know what that. And then I read it again after, and it was like maybe some part of him knew. And
Wow.
right, like it's just, we are given the strength that we need, we just don't call upon it. We don't ever, like, unless you need it, you don't call upon it. So why wait till you need it?
To call upon it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And I'm a firm believer in that as well, that a lot of times we avoid, right? Because we make it look like our brains paint this picture that it's going to be so scary, it's going to be so bad, it's going to be so horrible. If you look at your finances, you're going to die, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and the gracious host asked me a question. She said, what was, because my financial life was a mess before, I knew nothing about anything,
Yeah.
right? And this was not even like gazillion years ago. We're talking about like 5, 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I told her that the first step I had to take was realizing that I was not going to die by looking at my finances,
Yes.
right? And it's because our brain just makes us think it's going to be horrendous and crazy and ridiculous. And that's exactly what you just mentioned now, was you thought it was going to be this big mountain. And now once you got yourself to the place where your need to know your goal, your why became stronger than your fear, you're like, bring
Yes.
it on.
Yes, I love that. Yes, my why became stronger than my fear. And it's like you see the mountain, but you're like ready to sprint up the mountain now because of that, the drive. But I think when you see a mountain, the mountain exists so that you can get to the top, like you can reach to that height. Don't see it as something that's like blocking you. See it as like the way to get to where. And that's what actually I teach my clients in my coaching practice. I'm like, your life. So my tagline is love your perfectly imperfect life, because your life looks imperfect, but it's perfectly made for you to unlock that highest potential that you have. So trying to get rid of where you are at is actually preventing you from becoming who you're supposed to be.
I love
And
it.
yeah, so that's that's kind
Yeah.
of where I come from. And because it's everyone, right? Like it's everyone. So I'm a general life coach. I actually coach men and women. And I find that that's the thing. Everyone just wants to change where they're at right now because it doesn't feel good. There's discontent, and they think it's going to feel better somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is the biggest lie we tell ourselves.
Yes, I agree.
So,
It's you bring up a client that I had, and I remember when we started together, she was, because I coach one-on-one, and I also have a group program that I do a few times a year, and she was in one of the groups. And when we were about to start, she actually sent me a message like a day before and said, "So when do we start keeping track of how much we're spending?" And I was like, not yet, right? Because I don't do that. And so what we focused on was those principles that you talked about, which is really understanding the main reason why we are where we are, the main reason why we avoid what we need to do, the
yeah,
emotional, the psychological part of finances, the value, the love in ourselves, the seeing ourselves, the judgmental way we look at our lives, the lack of curiosity with which we don't bring curiosity into our mind, into our
yeah,
lives. We come in ready to judge ourselves with a toothpick, a fine comb, trying to see, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And the
yeah.
first step is really getting to accept ourselves, love ourselves. And
Yes.
then now from there, we can now build everything, and it becomes healthy, sustainable, and it's an inside out transformation as opposed to just outside only transformation.
No, but think about it. We have grown up thinking that the outside is what makes us feel good because I mean, our motivation came from the outside. When we were younger, it was our grades or our parents' approval or our teachers' approval. And then we get older and we're like, we need to look good and a certain way so we can attract the right partner. And then it becomes the right job. And then you get into your 30s, late 30s, 40s, and you're like, wait, none of those things matter anymore. So now what?
Yes.
I don't have a motivation. I don't have like there's nothing. So if that's when we're like, oh, maybe it has to all come from inside.
You're like, maybe I've been doing this wrong. Yes. Yes.
It's just we just never knew that. So
Yes.
yeah.
So we know you're a coach. I want to go back a little bit because you were a stay-home mom. Your husband, you guys, based on how you divided the roles or chose, you were like, I'm not interested in this stuff. He took care of the finances. We know the effect that had. That was hard.
Yeah.
And we know that you were able to, with the right team and working on your own healing process,
Yeah.
seeing your value and overcoming some of those emotional and mind blocks, you were able to get to that place. So now you've gone from, because you were still not working then, but how long have you been a coach now?
Well, I got certified in September of 2020. So
Mhm.
a year and a half after my husband passed. And then, so I've been coaching. I've been coaching since then. So it's been I coached for about 5 months during training and then about 4 months after.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. That's great. And I've seen you at work.
you are
If you're
very,
listening to this, Indu is amazing. If you don't already, cannot tell that already by her. And it's not just about the tools that you use, it's just about who you are and your experience and how you just let love radiate through you. And
you're,
I know for a fact that that's not just serving to your family and those of us that have a privilege of calling you friends, but also to your clients. So just FY, if you
thank
had
you.
any questions about that,
Thank
that's,
you.
but what made you choose to go back to work?
Well, I never worked before. So there was no going back, right?
What made
Never
you?
worked
Because
before.
money wasn't the problem.
No, it wasn't. So I just okay, so this is another oddly providential thing is that I found life coaching, the podcast 3 months before my husband passed away.
Wow.
But accidentally, I was just like going on a walk and I wanted to listen to something and I listened to Brooke's one of her episodes and I'm like, huh, this is interesting. Like I can relate to this. So then I started listening to more and I was like, maybe I want to do this. And
Wow.
then the day before he passed, I went to lunch with his cousin and we had a lovely conversation. And I was telling her about this, and she was like, you should totally do this. But I hadn't told my husband yet because I was like, he's gonna make so much fun of me. Like life coach, what is that? Like, he's like physician brain,
Yes, I
she,
know.
she went to law school, you're going to become a life coach. What, So I had hesitated. But that night, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to tell him. And I told him, Gene, don't don't make fun of me, but I think I want to be a life coach. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? I think you're going to be great at it. And it was like, I mean, I got him, like, I got his not approval, but like just him to like want me to do the same thing before he passed away. So it almost feels like he knows about it. And then, of course, for a year, like I didn't do anything because I was busy with other things. And then but I was still listening to the podcast and I was using it. It totally helped me deal with grief. And I kind of like coined this phrase, which is exactly my life, which is grieving and thriving at the same time.
Yes.
That's what I was seeing myself doing. And I was like, I need to share this with people because, and it has nothing to do with me like showing off or anything. I'm just like, if I can do this, anyone can do it
Wow.
because I'm human and so are they, right? It's nothing special. It's just being like inviting it, being open to it. So then I joined the course in March of 2020 and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm going to go all in. And I had been stay-at-home mom for 20 years. I hadn't been like interacting with like people, and you guys are all like super smart, like, doctors and lawyers and all kinds of things.
You are a lawyer too,
I
just
am, but I
FYI,
never,
woman.
yeah, but I never did anything with it. So I just never identified as that. So it was like, again, fear was definitely in the way, but I was like, I'm going to do it afraid. I'm just going to do it afraid. And it's the best thing that's happened to my relationship with my kids. You can ask them. My son told me, I don't know what all this is. I don't know if I believe in life coaching, but whatever it is, it's working for us.
It's working here. I
Yes,
like you, mom.
I
And
like
that
him
by
better.
itself is good.
So it's changed my relationship with my kids because I mean we're all in the same. I have three teenagers, actually, one 20-year-old, and so we're just like during the pandemic we're all together and we're having an awesome time rather than like at each other's throat. And I hear them life coaching their friends,
Oh,
so I think
wow.
they are hearing and listening.
We're not going to let them know that. Just let them be, right?
I know.
That's,
So yeah,
and
so that's my
that's
journey.
such a gift. That's such a gift. It's a gift, and I love what you said. It's, thriving and grieving at the
Grieving
same
and
time.
thriving. Yeah. Yeah.
It's healthy,
Yes. Yes.
because I think a lot of times we buy into that thought of once you're happy, you're happy. And once you're good, right? But I was sharing with a friend of mine that unfortunately lost someone just a few days before I recorded this,
Sorry.
about
Yeah.
some loss that I've had in my life years ago. And I still grieve that sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
you're like, I still grieve that. And it's healthy, and it's part of our humanness. And to try and get rid of that is unhealthy.
And I heard this quote somewhere. I think it was Katrina Udall that was mentioning it in one of her, I don't know, one of her sessions, and she was saying, she read this: grief is patient; it will wait for you. So trying to run away from it is not going to work because it'll come find you at some point.
Mhm.
So why not invite it in now? So I mean, I'm having a blast with you right now, but this morning I was crying, devastated. But I also now allow myself to do that and then go have a good time right after that.
Yes.
So it's okay. All of it is okay. All of it is being human.
All of it is okay, and all of it has been human. I love that. Grief is patient, and I it's part of life, and we wish we can avoid it. And I'm sure you wish, and I wish for you that that did not happen. But I have to say that the resurrection, for lack of a better term, that's happened afterwards has been a pleasure and a gift to see, and it's going
Thank
to serve so many people. It's like sometimes a plant dies, and what resurrects from there is we still mourn that plant, we still want that plant back in the version and
you.
from that it was, but Other times it just blooms into something else that's different and beautiful. And
Thank you for saying that, because I think it's important message for people to know. It's important message. It's a story is never over, you know, because I mean, even for me, my husband still lives on, right? Every day in my memory. So it's like he's still alive. So when we who are alive pretend like we're not, that we're doing ourselves a disservice.
we're doing ourselves a disservice.
So
Oh, how powerful. So many great points, so many nuggets, so many words of wisdom, and just sharing and just hanging out really here, which is what I like doing. I'm like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be attaching in the notes some materials that I think would be helpful for anyone in terms of organizing and just having a way to share passwords and what do we have, not because anything is going to happen, but because we want to be prepared in that unlikely chance. And to be honest, COVID has happened. We all know that life can be fleeting sometimes, many times in fact. So the more prepared we are and the more useless it becomes, the better for all of us, really.
exactly.
Right.
This is valuable information that, I mean, I probably would have said no to before, but I don't, I now know like how important it is, and so now I'm like, I need to share all what that I have with my kids. And it's almost like you don't want to talk about death, and you don't want to talk about any kind of painful things. And I didn't, I really never did. But now there's sort of a freedom. It's almost like
It's
it's,
empowering.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Thank
empowering. It's
you.
empowering because you don't want to talk. It's like life insurance. That was the most unsexy
Yes,
conversation that
yes,
you can have with your spouse.
yes.
And goals of care, what would you like to do in this situation? Would you like to have a feeding tube if
Yes,
it was to happen? Would you like to lie down on a bed and not be very unsexy
very
conversation?
unsexy. Yeah,
But it's okay to have that non-sexy conversation and then move on to things you enjoy doing more. And it's just things, it's housekeeping. That's the way that I think about it. And the more we are ready, the less painful,
yeah.
the less, I'm not even sure if pain is the right word, but the
No,
less unbearable.
I think it's almost like I mean, the more equipped
Quit.
makes us more free, because then you get to enjoy the pain. I don't know if enjoy is the word, but like
Get to
experience the
experience
pain.
you get to be in the pain.
Yeah, rather than like distract yourself. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I feel. But
You get to just mourn.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just get to mourn and
exactly. Yeah,
celebrate and mourn and celebrate and mourn and celebrate without
exactly.
those other things.
Yeah.
So powerful. So, Indy, for those that are trying to find you, I'm going to include the information, but some people listen on audio. So I want you to tell us, where can we find you? Because I know there's some people in my audience that are going to go, I want to work with her. I
Oh,
want to
I hope
learn from
so.
her. I want to grow with her because there's so much to learn from you. And I that's why I brought you here to share your experience, to teach us and just help us be aware that we don't have to want to do it, but it's okay for us to be prepared.
Yeah, 100%. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And I just want to say, like, I coach people who feel that, feel stuck in life and just want to like escape it, just they think, or they believe that something that's outside of what they are in right now is going to feel better. Whatever that might be, something big that happened to you, something that you think is fine, but not great, a relationship. Mostly it all boils down to relationship with yourself. And that's kind of what I focus on, like how to start loving, getting to know yourself and loving yourself, so that everything else you can handle. And so you can find me on induchathamcoaching.com. You can reach out to me through, I have the same Instagram and Facebook page, so you can reach out through that. And I can also share my phone number so that you can, share that with your viewers.
Sounds good. I'm going to include the email address, her handles, her website for those of you that are like, people cannot spell my name and I don't know why. So they're probably going to go, well, I can't spell Indu. We got you. We'll include the link on there so you can find her. We want to make sure we remove any barrier between you and getting the help that you need, or the help you think you want, or maybe not. You just like, there's something. It's
Yeah.
okay to contact her and you guys will figure it out together.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so much fun. Thank you. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for sharing so much. And thank you for just being the picture of what healing and mourning and grieving in a healthy way looks like.
It's all gratitude, Latifa. It is all gratitude. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you, because I haven't really done that um on any other platform. But I think it's good. It's good for people to know that, you can rise up from being flat on the ground. And you never know, it might be better than you ever thought possible. Thank you.
So good, so good. Thank you so much. And for those watching or listening, thank you for hanging out with us here as always. If you have any questions, it's moneyfitmd@gmail.com. And thanks for being a part of this community, because you guys are what makes this community great. And if there's anything else you want to learn, anything else that you think will really help you get your money and life to the place where you want it to be, let me know. And it's been a pleasure. Have a good day, everybody.